Surprise, it's us again. So if this is your first time tuning in, you may be wondering, where's Jay? Where's Jay? So on Sundays, or at least the past 2 Sundays, Wendy and I have been taking over Jay's stream. And so if this is your first time, again, you probably want to know who we are, I would say. So my name is John Williams. This is my wife, Wendy Williams. We own and operate Queen City Suites, which is a short-term rental housing company in the Charlotte, North Carolina market. We also work for CashFlowDiary in the capacity of accountability coaches. So you want to tell us what an accountability coach is? Because somebody asked that question last time. They're like, what is that?
Okay. So what we do as accountability coaches is we work with students of the CashFlowDiary Roadmap program to one-on-one to talk about what your personal goals are. And then we come up with a plan to get you to that goal. And then we track your progress. So we goal, plan, track, just like Jay was talking about
Was that yesterday or the day before?
Yesterday or the day before?
Yes.
I forget. But that's what we do with the students of the in the roadmap program. So it is customizable. It starts wherever you are right now in your business, whether you have 1 unit or 10 units and you want to get to 50, then we help you get to wherever you want to go.
So that's who we are, and that's why we're here. The topic for today is something that we appreciate a lot, or at least I do, because it's about growing revenue versus scaling, which you might think what's the difference? Right?
I know. It took me a while to wrap my head around, okay, well, what's the difference between revenue and scaling?
And how do the two interact? Because
Right.
you would think if
How
you
do
were
they compare
scaling, you would
contrast?
also be growing
Right.
revenue, right?
Right.
So how are they not the same thing? So
Right.
we put together just a short PowerPoint to help illustrate this topic, and really more or less it helps us with our notes too. But hopefully,
Because you got to keep John focused.
I know I have to
because
stay focused.
He needs to stay focused because he can talk about everything and just get off on tangents, and I got to keep him focused.
I am a squirrel person,
Yes.
and I will go down a rabbit hole
Yes.
and chase that rabbit.
Yes.
So
you
part
will.
of just being upfront and transparent, part of the slide presentation is to keep me focused
Yes.
and what we're going to talk about. So this is where the technology gets a little challenging for me. So I'm going to make that switch, and it might be a little clunky, but we're going to do it anyway. Ready?
Yes. I'm ready. Hit me with it.
All right. So
Don't
I got
you
to
need to do
select.
Chrome tab?
No,
Oh,
because it's actually
gotcha.
PowerPoint.
Oh, gotcha. I'm glad you know this stuff.
So you should be able to see that now. Wendy's kind of monitoring, but
I am kind of monitoring here, monitoring the situation.
yes. So what we're talking about, there are two forms of growth. There's revenue and there's scaling, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So revenue growth is more like making more with what you already have, is what we would say that was. So this is things like adjusting your nightly rates. It's things like adding additional services. Like, for example, this is something we talked about last Sunday.
Oh,
I
I was
believe
just
that
about
was
to
our
say
topic.
Yep.
Ways to actually grow revenue, like adding masseuse services, or adding rental car services, or adding, you name it, whatever you can come up with. And I think we gave out a bunch of those last week. Cutting expenses is a way to grow revenue, because when we're talking revenue, we're usually talking net revenue, meaning what do I get to bring home and put in my pocket? Because that's all that really matters at the end of the day. If you make $100,000 but you only bring home 10, then you really made $10. And so cutting expenses can be a way to do that, and becoming more efficient.
Ooh, I like that.
Is a great way to increase net revenue. And we'll talk about some of those things. Now, scaling is a little bit different. Scaling is duplicating what you already have. So say I have one home and I have maximized the revenue in that one. Now scaling is taking that, and it's almost like cookie cutter. It's duplicating what you already have. And it's things like adding more units. It's things like, now we've got to talk about creating systems. We've got to talk about automation, which kind of goes hands in hand with that efficiency thing we were talking about earlier, and building a team. And so this is one of the things that we realized when we first started wanting to go from one unit to multiples, was that, okay, now we need to start creating those systems and teams, and now we need to automate some things and all of that, because we couldn't figure out a way to make that happen just with Wendy and I by ourselves.
Right, because we were doing everything ourselves, and I mean, I can only clean
so many places in one day. Yes,
in one day, right? I mean, I can't.
And Wendy's only willing to do so much laundry.
Yes. Yes, there's that as well.
So that's the difference, and that's the difference we're making. That's the what we're calling scaling versus revenue growth. Now, here are things about that. You can overlook opportunities to grow revenue. It's extremely easy to do that. And one example of that is this is one of our older units that we had, and this picture is a bad one, in case you didn't notice.
It really is.
And it's an example of how you can overlook opportunities to grow revenue, like doing something very similar to this, taking a picture with your cell phone and using cell phone photos instead of using a professional photographer, because the photos in your listing will directly affect the amount of revenue that you're able to generate.
Yeah, it's your marketing.
Yes, it's your marketing. So, for example, if I have the same unit you do, but I have professional photos and you don't, it's very likely that I will be able to charge more per night just because my space looks nicer because I took professional photos.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get more clicks that way.
Yes, and that's just one example of many. So always keep that in mind. You can overlook opportunities to grow revenue. And on the flip side of that, you can scale too quickly.
We know this firsthand.
Yes. So this is actually a photo in the background there of one of our units that we added that we shouldn't have. We added it too quickly. And basically we had I say we in the royal sense, we had our blinders on and we said, okay, we got to get to 10 units by November. And so we just started adding them.
Right. Without
thinking about the revenue that each one was going to generate, how we were going to market, the lag time that it takes to start generating revenue.
Yes.
Was a big one. That was a big one.
That was a big one.
And so we kind of got ourselves in a little bit of a pickle to where we were starting to lose money because we had scaled too quickly.
Well, we hadn't optimized the units that we had already.
Correct.
Was the problem.
Yes. And so when we went to scale, we duplicated problems that we already had.
Oh, man, that's a golden nugget.
Yes. So beware when you scale, beware that you're not scaling things that aren't scalable.
Right.
I don't know a better way to say that, but you can go too quickly. Now, here's the thing about that. Which one of those allows more revenue over time?
Ooh, you know what? That's a really good question.
Because one of the things about scaling and revenue growth is they kind of go hand in hand, meaning when you scale, sometimes that allows more opportunities for revenue growth because you have economies of scale, for example, in things like cleaning.
Right. That becomes a revenue stream for us.
Yes, well,
that talked about last week, but not only that, if you have, let's say you have 3 units and you've got 1 cleaner, and now you're looking at growing to, let's say, 15 units. I mean, that 1 cleaner can't do all 15 units.
Yes. So where's the opportunity for revenue growth there and what you're saying?
Well,
that's factual, true.
Right. So what I was thinking was, what if you were able to maybe get your own cleaning company?
Now we're talking.
Because now you can handle you've got so many turnovers now that it would make more sense and probably save you more money in the long run to bring that in-house.
Correct. Because if you have 3, likely you're using a cleaner or you're using a cleaning company, and that person in turn is a business of their own. So they have their own overhead, their own expenses, and then they are making a profit in the difference.
Right.
So they may be paying their people, I don't know, $15 an hour, but they're charging you $35 because they're a business. That's what they do. And I think what you're trying to say is when you scale and get to those economies of scale, now I can start hiring the cleaners directly and my cost just went from $35 an hour to 15.
Yes.
Yes. I think that's
exactly.
And the same thing would be true with something like laundry.
Yes.
So if you're a smaller operation, does it make sense for you to own a laundromat?
Not necessarily.
Probably not. And there are some cases where you're so small that it even makes sense that your cleaners can do it in the unit.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. When you have just a couple, it may make sense for that to happen.
But that ends up being more expensive because you're
It
paying
takes more
somebody
time.
$35 an hour to
Mhm.
do laundry.
Right.
So
When you could be taking it to the laundromat and paying $1.15 per pound.
Right.
or
So
whatever.
sometimes scaling allows for revenue growth.
Yes.
Is the bottom line.
Yes.
And those are kind of two examples.
Mhm. Those are good.
Now this slide I put together because the truth is these two things do work together, and they work together over time, and they go hand in hand, just like yin and yang.
I love it.
So revenue growth is adjusting nightly rates, adding additional services, cutting expenses, becoming more efficient. But then when you're scaling, you're adding more units, creating systems, automating, and building a team. And then over time, you'll go back to that yin. You'll go back to that yin and realize, okay, now are there things that I can do now that I couldn't do before to grow revenue because I wasn't scaling. And then also the flip side of that coin is make sure that you're optimizing your revenue now and the growth of your revenue with what you have, so that when you do go to scale, you're also scaling that revenue growth.
That's what I was about to say, because you really want to get your whatever you have right now, you want to go ahead and maximize that
to the extent that you can for the size that you are.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And then take that system, that whole business that you've just created, and go add 2, 3, 4, 10, 20, and then go back to the drawing board, so to speak, and say, okay, well, now that I have these 20 units, how can I maximize all of these 20 units? You see what I'm saying?
Yes. And so that's kind of how these are laid out. Step 1, maximize revenue. Step 2, scale. And then see step 1. What can we do now to grow and maximize revenue?
Right. And it's going to change the more units you get.
Yes. Yes. So never stop looking at one or the other. I think you always have to be looking for opportunities on both sides of this.
Yep.
And that's why they go so well together, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it.
And so the last part of that was, well, what would you recommend for somebody new to the industry? So I think we've kind of already said it. And what we would say is focus first on stability and developing a system that you can duplicate. Mm. And that's what we teach here in CashFlowDiary. We teach you how to go from 1 to 100. In fact, if you're a person that only really wants 1 or 2, this probably isn't the place for you, because we're all about scaling, but we're also all about systems and processes and all of the other knowledge and things that you need to not only grow revenue, but to scale that, scale that growth. And so then the second part of that would be to scale that system. But again, don't forget to look for new opportunities for growing revenue. So you can never say, I'm done with one and now I'm going to do the other. They're always both present, is what I would say.
Yep. That's good.
I think it is. Yeah. So this is where it gets sloppy for me, switching screens. Do that. And we're back. So there we are.
Did we have any questions?
Yes. And now I can actually see.
I can't see questions on.
Well, that's because you're only viewing it in one place. So we're on CashFlowDiary Mastery page. We're on the Mastermind page. We're on all over. CashFlowDiary.com/live is a great place to watch and make sure that you're getting notified.
Oh, there you go. Excellent.
See, I'm getting fancier.
Good job.
So you can CashFlowDiary.com/live. And then if you're over there on YouTube, you can also watch CashFlowDiary.com/watch. So personally, when I watch Jay go live, or if I'm watching myself, I personally switch between those two depending on my mood. Sometimes I like to be on Facebook. Sometimes I like YouTube. But you can get them both places is the point. And it does help, by the way, if you go over to YouTube and actually just hit that like button on the video, it helps them spread it around. It lets other people know that we exist, and we appreciate it. So thank you for doing that. Also, don't forget that if you go to CashFlowDiary.com/playbook, you can register and get the free playbook that Jay put together to kind of get you started on this journey and start building some revenue and then scaling that revenue.
That's what it's all about.
Yes, it's a great place to start, and it's totally free. I think do you even have to give your email address? I'm not sure. If you do, it's an email address, but it's totally free. And those are kind of the things I wanted to point out. So did we have any questions along those lines? Do we have anything? Jeremy's
here.
Yeah, so Jeremy's here. Yes. Say hello. Tell us where you're from. Tell us where you're tuning in from. We have students all over the world, which I think is super cool.
It is cool.
It's fun to meet other people. And it's also interesting to see that the system that CashFlow Diary has works almost everywhere.
Yep.
Maybe if you're in Antarctica, it wouldn't be a great thing. But even then, I'm thinking that would be a really unique STR unit.
Yeah.
Yes.
That'd be cool.
So let's see.
Donald.
Good morning, Donald.
Good morning.
Hey, Sam. Mary is here. Mary says, focus on revenue. I love revenue. Yes. Revenue is where it's at. Net revenue. Net revenue counts more than anything.
Hey, Crystal. She's in our market.
Hey, Crystal. Crystal is here with us in Charlotte. She is also an operator and killing it in the market. Mary says, how long does it take to go from zero to scale, particularly if you're still doing a job? Ooh, that's a great question. And
you know what? We get asked that a lot from our students.
Yes. So the answer I would give is you can go as quickly as you are willing to put the work in.
That's what I was going to say too.
Is that right?
I was going to say, well, how bad do you want it?
Yes.
Because it's going to require some of your time.
Yes. And now John's going to go down a rabbit hole and start talking about your why and pushing yourself away from pain versus pulling yourself towards what it really is that you want out of life.
Because we do work a lot on that mindset, and
almost 90% of everything is mindset.
Limitations.
I don't care what you're doing in business. It is. And it's true in this business too.
Because a lot of people come with limiting beliefs that they can't do some things.
Right. Yeah. So from zero to scale, I've seen people do it in a month or two, and I've seen people take years to do it. And a lot of it has to do with the amount of time they allow themselves to spend on that business. And I would also say, hey, if you've got a job, isn't it ironic that we're so willing to go spend 40 hours a week building someone else's business, show up on time, have set hours every day, do all of those things. And then when we get home, we turn it off and we don't work towards our own dreams. Just as hard, at least just as hard. Right?
Yep.
So that's what I would say. You have time. If you have a job, you have time. It's just, where do you spend that time? And there's always this balance between short-term pain for long-term gain, right? So
that's beautifully said. Joel. Thank you, sir.
Oh, Mary says totally free without email address. So there you go.
Okay.
CashFlowDiary.com/playbook. Go pick it up.
Donald's in Prescott, Arizona.
Ooh, Prescott, Arizona.
Excellent. I love Arizona.
Arizona is a nice place, and it's a great place to do STRs.
Pretty.
We have students in Arizona.
We sure do.
We're killing it, by the way. Mm-hmm. Almost everybody that follows the system, it's a recipe. It's a recipe. You put the work in. We'll show you how. You put the work in, and Wendy and I will help keep you accountable.
That's right.
And you'll get there.
Ooh, Spartanburg. Joel says Spartanburg.
I'm assuming that's awesome. Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Excellent.
because we're in Charlotte, North Carolina. It really doesn't matter your location, where you are.
Is Spartanburg in North Carolina?
I think Spartanburg, South Carolina.
I think it's North Carolina.
Okay, maybe it's North Carolina. Either way, we have people like, for example, Wendy and I got started.
Oh, it is in South Carolina.
Wendy and I got started in our own home, in our basement. And we say we're from Charlotte, but we're really not. We live 30 minutes outside of the city, across from a turf farm.
With cows as our neighbors.
Yes. So like if we want to go to the grocery store, it's 15, 20 minutes. So you're like, who would stay there? We stay booked all the time.
Yep.
So you can do it anywhere.
And that was a limiting belief that I had when we first started, even though this was like my side gig in the very beginning 3 years ago. And I thought, well, let's just throw it up on Airbnb just to see what will happen. And I was like, who's going to stay here?
But then they did.
But then people just started coming, and they came for all sorts of reasons, for all sorts of lengths of time. Like our second booking was for 3 months for a guy who was coming for work. So.
Oh, and you moved from Gastonia.
Oh, okay.
We used to own rental property in Gastonia.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's still considered Charlotte. Yeah. But here's another great answer for you, Joel. Go get the playbook. It's free. And something else I want to remind you of is that, where is it? CashFlowDiary.com/learn live. That's coming up starting August 24th, I believe. And we're doing a free training. It says 9-day. I think it's actually a 5-day training. But go there, CashFlowDiary.com/learn live or /masterclass.
Yeah, you'll get a really good foundation of
yes,
what it's like to start a short-term rental business.
Yeah, you could literally take that training and go start. In fact, that's what Jay would tell you to do, because Jay's now a clock.
Right.
Take that information, go there day 1, do what he says. Day 2, show up, do what he says. Day 3, show up, do what he says. By the end of the week, you may have just started a little short-term rental empire.
Yep.
In Spartanburg. So I would encourage you, come to that.
You can do it anywhere.
What else we got? He said yes, South Carolina.
Yes, 5 days.
Where does that time go? Indeed, yes. Jeremy says, John, that's still considered Charlotte. Yes. Yes. So CashFlowDiary.com/learn live. And it is a free 5-day training. It's excellent. But you need to come while it's live, because once it gets done, all of those videos come down. So you want to get over there, get registered, and make sure that you get the notifications for it and show up. Show up for those lives.
Yes.
So this kind of goes back to that. What kind of work are you willing to put in?
Pretend like it's a business meeting between your business and Cashflow Diary.
Ooh, he says, my biggest fear is getting landlords to agree.
Ooh, it's all up here, my friend.
Yes.
It's all up here.
Yes.
All up here.
So Wendy is our acquisitions department.
Yes, I am.
So what do you think about that? Okay. When that comes to mind, what do you think?
When I hear somebody say this, because this happens a lot, to me, you're saying that you don't think what you have to offer the landlord is valuable.
Or as valuable as what they're giving you.
Ooh, yes.
Right. And I would make the argument that that's actually not true. You're bringing a ton of value to a landlord.
Our landlords love us.
Yeah, to the point where they're like, hey, we're buying this place. Do you want it? Or, hey, this one just came vacant. Do you guys want it?
Yep. They always ask us first.
In fact, they're like, please take it.
Yes.
So that's because they see the value.
And we only have 3 landlords that we work with.
Yes, it's not like you need many.
No, you don't need
at all. So
and they just all the time they're like, hey, please, we've got this one. Do you want it?
Yes. And I know that will be a topic. That will be a topic that will be covered in that live training. So please come to that. and you'll get even the exact words to say.
Yep.
Even the exact words to say.
Yep.
That have been successful. I know because we use them.
That's right.
Right. So we have a formula, we have a system, we give you the words, but it's all going to be focused around what value do you bring to them as a business, and you'll soon discover that there's lots of it. There's tons of value in what we have to offer.
And I think you have to think about who you are as a business first as well.
There you go. Mary's got it.
Because whenever you go talk to landlords, you need to be able to say, hey, I am a business and here's what my business does. Right? So we are a short-term rental hospitality business, and we serve families with children who are coming into town, who are in between housing, relocating to the area, or have an insurance claim on their personal property, or they're coming for family events such as weddings, funerals,
family reunions sometimes, yeah.
That kind of thing. And that's who we are. We know who we are. And I know, because I know who I am, I know what value I can bring to you as a landlord.
Right. And it's almost to the point where if somebody tells you no, you kind of feel like they lost out, because it really is, in my opinion, lopsided. I'm bringing more value to them than I am receiving, because really all they're giving me is a lease in an empty place.
Yes.
And I'm giving them a great tenant who pays every month. I'm a revenue stream for them.
Yep.
Who cleans 3 times a week a lot of times.
Takes care of the property.
Who does a lot of the maintenance that never calls them for it.
Yep.
That's on and on and on, So you almost become, depending on how many units of theirs you have, you almost eliminate their need for management, which is 10% by itself usually, if you think about it.
That was a really good question.
But yeah, it's a good question, and everybody has the same thoughts. I think. I think that's just perfectly normal.
Yes, agreed. And that's why it will be addressed on the training.
So here's another question from Joel. So Joel's asking lots of good questions. He says, "Do you have?" And he's talking to us. Do we have more single family or apartment units in QC, which I believe is the Queen City?
Queen City.
And we are Queen City Suites. Personally,
appropriate.
We have houses
because of who we serve.
Because of the client type that we serve. So
typically,
especially those insurance claims that we're going after, they need like-kind property. And oftentimes people that have insurance, they have houses instead of condos. And so that ends up being our client type. But I will point out there are inefficiencies in that model. And that's why Jay is much more of a multifamily type of guy, because he doesn't have to do things that we have to do, like take garbage out,
mow the lawn, pest control, pressure wash the porch.
Yes, because we become de facto management a lot of times for our landlords. So and that's one of the reasons they love us, because if the HOA sends them a letter and says, hey, this needs to be done, they just say, hey, can you handle this for me?
And we're like, yep.
Yeah, I can.
Sure
I can handle that for you. I'll send you the bill.
Yep. That's how that works.
So, but that's what we do. If I were starting out, I would say that there's probably more opportunity out there in the multifamily space, meaning apartments, as far as scaling goes. Because think about it, if you want to add another unit, you just sign another lease in the same building.
And you've already got your
supply, because you're going to use a central supply closet and all these other efficiencies that go along with that. Your cleaners go to one location. There's lots of things about it that make a lot more sense. But it always comes back to who are you serving, and you'll learn that too.
Exactly. Good questions.
I'm just going to throw this question up and hope it's a good one. Mary says, what is the situation with STRs in places that have severe housing shortages? How do you deal with that? That's interesting.
It is interesting.
It's one of those things that I think there's another question inside of that question. But just realize that short-term rentals are housing. You're just talking length of stay. So we have people that they have a need for housing. It just happens to not be for a whole year. They need 6 months. They need 3 months. They need 4 months. And so those people need housing too. And because I'm kind of reading a little bit into that question that, okay, well, if there are places that have severe housing shortages, that could mean it's hard to find inventory. Could be one way to look at that question. Another way to look at that question could be, well, the local government doesn't want you taking housing that's already severely in short supply.
That's what I was thinking.
And using it for business purposes. But what I would say is that we are in the business of housing. So that's really not so much of a thing as it is just finding inventory. And if that's the case, you're probably in a better situation because not as many people, if you gather up all the inventory, you're the only game in town, right? So that's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is maybe that's not the market for you.
Yeah.
You don't have to, once you build systems and all of those things and have that in place, it really doesn't matter where you operate from, because Wendy and I don't go physically to our units hardly ever, right?
It's been a while.
So it doesn't really matter whether we're in Charlotte or Jacksonville, Florida, or it really doesn't matter. We would operate the same way. So
right. But we've taken the time to create those systems and those processes. And now we can just go bloop. I want to be Florida. I want to be in, wherever we want to be.
yes.
We can go wherever we want.
And to a
I
certain
want
degree,
them all.
and to a certain degree, the market that you're in will control things like that. Like your
That's a good
ability to
point.
scale and your ability to
That's a good point.
grow revenue, your opportunities for revenue growth. So good question though.
Mm-hmm.
Good question.
Yep. Queen City. That's why we named our business Queen City Suites.
Joel says he's planning to focus primarily on corporate travelers, since I'm not sure tourists would be a sustainable model for this region. You might be surprised.
You would be surprised.
You might be surprised.
You would.
Charlotte isn't exactly like, hey, let's pack up the kids and go to Charlotte type destination.
No, not a vacation destination.
But during COVID, most of the people that are traveling right now tend to be, based on the stats, of course, they're lagging stats, but based on the current information that we have, they tend to be local and regional people.
Yep.
So we are seeing a lot of people that normally would have gotten on a plane and gone to Disney World that now are like, I wonder what's in Charlotte.
Family.
Right?
I've got family that lives around there. Let's go.
Yes, we've been getting a lot of that too, where they've been quarantined for months and now it's like, I just want to see a friendly face.
Mm-hmm.
Who can I visit? Family.
And they may have previously stayed in a hotel, but now they're like, I don't know. I'd rather have my own private space.
Right. But corporate travel is a good one. It's a little depressed right now, although we are still getting corporate travelers.
Yes, we are. We have one right now.
We have one right now, but they're coming for oftentimes different reasons than they were previously, but they're still there.
She's staying for like 3 weeks.
And you'll learn this in your live when you come to live, when you register for that, which you're doing right, Joel. You've registered at CashFlowDiary.com/learn live. When you attend that class, you will learn things like you're going to need basically three different customer avatars, or whom do you want to serve, and so that will help you
not have a single point of failure.
Yes, you always want to avoid single points of failure. Always want to avoid that.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. Good questions.
Who else has got something? Joel cannot be the only person with questions.
Bring it.
Although he's got really great ones.
Those are really great questions. You know what I was thinking about? I was thinking about Salisbury.
Salisbury is in North Carolina. Yes.
Spartanburg is in South Carolina.
And now I'm hungry.
I know, right?
Salisbury steak, I believe, is in the freezer.
We have some Salisbury steak.
Yes.
And some mashed potatoes.
All right, stop.
And some biscuits.
We're going to get my grumblies on.
I guess that's what we're having for lunch today, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's lunchtime over here at Charlotte, North Carolina.
Well, Mary, that's
Mary.
Mary says, how do you avoid single points of failure in scaling? That's a really great question. You always want to avoid single points of failure, not only when you're scaling, but you're going to have to do things like have backups for backups for backups.
Yes, which we realized, oh God.
And sometimes you still don't have enough backups.
Just when? Yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
yeah.
For example, cleaners, even if you're going to hire a cleaning company, you want to hire two.
Yes.
At least two.
At least.
If you're going to hire individual cleaners, you're going to hire probably at least three, because we went through 3 yesterday on one of our units because it was kind of last minute type thing. And so it was a good thing that we had numerous people to call.
Yes.
Because primary wasn't available, backup wasn't available. The third one ended up being windy, actually.
Yeah.
But we need a third.
Yes.
So you always need backups to everything.
Oh, Joel's done it. Good job, Joel. Moving at the speed of instruction. Jay would be so proud of you.
Yes.
It's now o'clock.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Says.
It's going to be a good time.
Excellent. Good job.
I always get stuff out of it,
yes.
and I, supposedly know everything, but I don't. You will never know everything. And
true.
And the business, the industry, part of what's so exciting about it to me is it's constantly changing.
Yes.
And so that's a reason to be in that class, because you'll learn things that even if you've watched a previous one, there's new things in the world.
Yep.
And you'll learn about those
always
things.
Changing.
And by the way, that's one of the advantages of being part of the roadmap.
True.
Because we do get together and have those conversations about, what's going on in everybody's business. How are we dealing with COVID? What are you guys doing for cleaning? Or all of these questions. And we were able to brainstorm and get ideas from others that have solved those problems and just work together. You're always better working together.
Yep.
Real estate in any form is a team sport.
Yep. That's good. That's good stuff. That is good stuff. Good questions.
Yeah. So that's kind of all I had for today. Those are great questions. Again, hit those links. I think I posted them everywhere, and make sure that you're registered where you need to be registered. Don't forget, you can get the playbook. Don't forget the playbook's out there. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That really helps on YouTube. I just hit that like button and hit the subscribe and hit that bell, because then you'll get the notifications for it. I learned that one the other day. Also, you can go to CashFlowDiary.com/listen. I believe you'll get the podcast there. Jay runs an excellent podcast, got a lot of great information, a lot of people that are interviewed. And it's just a great place to go. So I think I've plugged most everything I wanted to plug for you guys. And any final thoughts?
Final thoughts? Final thoughts. I think my final thoughts would be to go get started.
Yes.
And because you can't scale 0.
You can't scale 0.
You can't scale 0.
Write that down.
You put me on the spot.
I'm sorry.
I had to come up with something off the top of my head.
I know. All right, guys, we'll see you next Sunday. And don't forget, Jay's going live every day in August. So Jay will be live 9 a.m. Pacific time. I'm Eastern time, so I'm always having to do math.
He's talking about growth. Like, what was it? He's going to
That's right. What is the topic for tomorrow? Let's check that out.
It's ways to grow. Something about growth.
Yeah, because I think it ties right in with what we were talking about.
Right. And I forget what it was. Something about growth.
Of course, I'd have to know what day it was.
Today's the
so it's growth tools and techniques.
Yeah, that's what
growth tools and techniques for a successful business. How to find the right support, meaning mentor team members, all that kind of stuff we were just talking about.
Stuff.
Automations. What can you set up to run on its own? That's something you're going to want to tune in for. And online tools. What are your favorite online tools for STR businesses? For things like pricing, messaging, market research, payments, all that good stuff.
Good
stuff. If you won't be there, I will be. I'll be in the student chair listening to what Jay has to say. Yes. So I get the benefit of it as well. So
Yep.
All right, guys, we will talk to you soon. and we'll talk to you next time.
Yes.